Have you ever felt the need to pull away from someone in your life, whether it's a partner, a friend, or even a family member? It's not an easy decision. It stirs up emotions, yours and theirs. Yet pulling away often feels like the only way to protect your energy, realign with your values, or assess the true nature of the connection. But here's the real question. What really happens when you take that step? What unfolds in the space you create? The answers are more profound than you might think. Let me ask you this. Have you ever wondered if your absence could speak louder than your presence? The truth is, stepping back can sometimes communicate more than words ever could. People often fear this act, believing it might break the relationship entirely. But what if pulling away is not the end? What if it's the beginning of something better, something healthier, clearer, and more aligned with your purpose? In this video, we're diving deep into 6 transformative truths about what happens when you pull away from them. These truths are not about playing games or manipulating others. Instead, they are grounded in principles of stoicism, personal growth, and authentic connection. Whether you're pulling away to set boundaries, heal, or find clarity, this is your chance to discover what truly lies on the other side of distance. Stay with me, because each layer will change how you approach relationships forever. By the end of this video, you'll understand not just the effects of pulling away, but how it can shape your personal growth and pave the way for meaningful connections built on mutual respect and understanding. Let's dive in with the first truth, and as we do, I encourage you to reflect. What do you want your distance to say about you? 1. The initial shock. Their reaction to distance. This is what really happens when you pull away from them. Their reaction is immediate, visceral, and often revealing. At first, your absence is like a jolt to their system. Whether they acknowledge it or not, they feel the shift. People thrive on routine, on familiarity, and when that's disrupted, it triggers a cascade of emotional responses. Think about it. When someone close to you pulls away, how do you feel? Confused, anxious, perhaps even a little defensive. That's human nature. The initial reaction to distance often stems from fear. Fear of the unknown, fear of losing control, fear of rejection. This isn't just about them, it's about how relationships function. In Stoic relationships, Marcus Aurelius reminds us that the only thing we can control is our response. So let me ask, how do you want to respond when they react to your distance? Do you want to get pulled into their fear, or do you want to stand firm in your purpose? Their initial shock might manifest in several ways. They might bombard you with questions, asking what's wrong or why you're acting differently. Some might withdraw themselves, reflecting your energy back at you. Others might lash out, blaming you for the sudden shift. All these reactions are rooted in the same underlying question: why? Here's where the truth of Stoicism comes in. It teaches us to remain calm amidst chaos, to observe without being pulled into emotional storms. If they react strongly, it's not a reflection of your choice, it's a reflection of their perception of it. The space you've created forces them to confront their feelings, their assumptions, and their role in the dynamic. Now, let's turn the lens inward. How does it feel to witness their reaction? Does it stir guilt or doubt? Or do you feel a sense of relief? This moment is crucial because it's a mirror for your own growth. Their reaction is not your responsibility, but your response to their reaction is. Can you hold your ground with empathy? Can you balance kindness with firmness? In this space, you might begin to see patterns you hadn't noticed before. Maybe they've relied on you too heavily for validation or support. Maybe the dynamic has been skewed in ways that didn't serve either of you. Pulling away allows these patterns to surface. And while that can be uncomfortable, it's also necessary for transformation. Here's a powerful thought to carry with you. Your absence is not a punishment, it's a boundary. When you create distance, you're not saying, "I don't care about you." You're saying, "I care about myself enough to honor my needs." This distinction is crucial, and it's one many people fail to understand. Their initial shock often comes from misinterpreting your boundary as rejection. But over time, that interpretation can evolve if you remain consistent. As you navigate this stage, keep asking yourself, what am I learning from their reaction? What does it reveal about the relationship and about me? This phase, though challenging, is where the foundation of transformation begins. The initial shock is not the end, it's the beginning of a deeper understanding for both of you. But here's the real test. Can you stay the course, even when their reaction tries to pull you back into old patterns? Stay tuned, because in the next section, we'll explore how their reaction transforms into self-reflection and what that means for the future of your connection. 2. Self-reflection. What distance reveals about them. This is what really happens when you pull away from them. The space you create forces them to look inward, perhaps for the first time in a long time. When you're constantly present, it's easy for them to take you and the dynamic of your relationship for granted. But the moment you step back, the absence becomes impossible to ignore. It's like suddenly hearing silence in a room that was once filled with noise. That quiet, while uncomfortable, holds the power to spark self-reflection. Let me ask you this. How often do people truly take the time to reflect on their behavior in relationships? Most of us are caught up in routines, expectations, and assumptions. We rarely pause to consider how our actions or inactions affect those around us. But when someone close to us pulls away, it disrupts that rhythm. It's a wake-up call, and for many, it's the first step toward deeper awareness. Think about a time when someone pulled away from you. Did it make you question your actions? Did it lead you to wonder if you had done something wrong or missed an important sign? That same process is happening for them now. Whether they admit it or not, your absence is making them take stock of their behavior, their priorities, and perhaps even their values. But here's the key. What they uncover in this period of reflection depends on who they are and where they are in their own journey. Some people might realize they've been neglectful or selfish. They might recognize patterns they hadn't noticed before, like how they've relied too heavily on you for emotional support or validation. For others, the reflection might bring up feelings of insecurity or fear of abandonment. This isn't about assigning blame, it's about bringing awareness to what has been hidden in the shadows. In Stoic relationships, self-awareness is essential. As the philosopher Seneca reminds us, the greatest obstacle to living is expectancy, which depends on tomorrow and wastes today. By pulling away, you're forcing them to confront the present moment and their role in the relationship. You're inviting them, whether consciously or not, to examine their expectations, their assumptions, and their habits. But not everyone will rise to the occasion. Some people, when faced with this mirror, will deflect instead of reflect. They might blame you for creating the distance or justify their past behavior as unchangeable. This too is revealing. It shows you who is willing to grow and who is stuck in patterns of denial or defensiveness. Here's a question for you to ponder. If they resist self-reflection, is this someone who aligns with your vision of a healthy, balanced relationship? Your choice to step back also serves another purpose. It tests their capacity for accountability. Are they able to look at their own actions without becoming defensive? Can they acknowledge where they might have fallen short, or do they cling to excuses? The answers to these questions will give you a clearer picture of their emotional maturity and readiness for growth. Now, let's talk about the potential outcomes of this self-reflection. When someone truly takes the time to examine themselves, it can lead to profound growth. They might begin to see you and the relationship in a new light. They might realize the importance of your presence and feel inspired to make meaningful changes. This isn't about them trying to win you back or fix things superficially. True growth comes from within, and it's a process that takes time and effort. On the other hand, not everyone will reach this level of awareness. Some might use the distance to retreat further into their own fears or insecurities. They might choose to blame external factors rather than look inward. This too is a lesson for you. It shows you where their limitations lie and helps you decide whether the relationship is worth investing in further. As you navigate this phase, it's important to stay grounded in the principles of Stoicism. Remember, you cannot control their journey, you can only control your response to it. If they choose to grow, that's a testament to their character. If they don't, that's a reflection of where they are, not of your worth or effort. One of the most powerful lessons from this stage is the realization that pulling away is not about forcing someone to change. It's about creating the space for them to choose growth or not on their own terms. As Epictetus said, freedom is the only worthy goal in life. It is won by disregarding things that lie beyond our control. So what does this mean for you moving forward? It means staying true to your boundaries and your values, regardless of how they respond. If they show signs of genuine self-reflection and growth, you'll have the opportunity to rebuild the relationship on a stronger, more balanced foundation. If not, you'll have the clarity to move forward without regret, knowing you've done your part. Before we move on to the next truth, I want to take a moment to connect with you, the viewer. If this part of the video resonates with you, I encourage you to like this video and comment number 1 below to show your support. Your engagement not only helps us reach more people, but also builds a community of like-minded individuals who value personal growth and authentic relationships. And if you haven't already, make sure to subscribe to this channel so you don't miss the rest of this journey. We're diving into deeper layers of what happens when you pull away, and trust me, the next truths will challenge you to think about relationships in ways you never have before. Stay with me, because in the next part we'll explore what happens to you during this process and how the distance you create can become a powerful catalyst for your own growth. 3. Your own growth. What happens to you when you step back? This is what really happens when you pull away from them. The distance you create doesn't just change the dynamic of the relationship, it transforms you. Pulling away is not an act of rejection or avoidance. It's an intentional choice to prioritize your inner world, to rediscover who you are beyond the context of the relationship. And in this process, something profound unfolds, your growth. Let me ask you, when was the last time you gave yourself the space to truly reflect on your needs, your boundaries, and your values? So often in relationships, we lose ourselves. We become enmeshed in the emotions, expectations, and rhythms of the other person. But pulling away creates a vacuum, a moment where you can finally hear your own voice again. At first, this space can feel uncomfortable. The absence of their presence might leave you questioning your decision. Did I do the right thing? Was this necessary? This discomfort is natural. It's a sign that you're stepping out of your comfort zone and into the unknown. But here's the truth. Growth is rarely comfortable. In fact, it often requires us to confront our fears, our doubts, and even our own shortcomings. One of the first things you'll notice in this process is a newfound clarity. Without the noise of constant interaction, you begin to see the relationship for what it truly is, not what you hoped it would be, or what you tried to make it. What patterns emerge when you step back? Were you giving more than you were receiving? Were your boundaries respected, or were they consistently pushed aside? These questions might be difficult to face, but they are essential to your growth. As you reflect, you'll also start to reconnect with yourself. What brings you joy outside of this relationship? What are your passions, your dreams, your aspirations? So often we sacrifice these parts of ourselves for the sake of maintaining harmony in a relationship. But when you create distance, you reclaim the time and energy to invest in your own life. It's not about being selfish, it's about being whole. In Stoic relationships, the concept of self-mastery is central. Marcus Aurelius reminds us in Meditations, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. This period of stepping back is an opportunity to exercise that power, to cultivate resilience and emotional independence. Instead of focusing on how they might be feeling, you turn your attention inward, asking, what do I need to feel fulfilled and at peace? Another key aspect of your growth during this time is learning to let go of control. In relationships, we often cling to the idea that we can fix, change, or save the other person. But pulling away is an act of surrender. It's acknowledging that their journey is their own, and that your role is not to dictate their path, but to honor your own. This shift in perspective can be incredibly liberating. As you grow, you may also notice a change in how you view the concept of boundaries. Boundaries are not walls, they are guidelines for how you want to be treated and how you choose to interact with others. When you pull away, you're asserting those boundaries not as an act of defiance, but as an act of self-respect. And in doing so, you set a standard for how you deserve to be treated in all areas of your life. But growth doesn't happen in isolation. The distance you create also gives you a chance to observe how the relationship dynamic evolves in your absence. Do they reach out with genuine curiosity and care, or do they retreat into defensiveness? Do they respect the space you've requested, or do they try to pull you back into old patterns? These observations provide valuable insights not just about them, but about the nature of the relationship itself. During this phase, it's important to remember that growth is not linear. There will be moments of doubt, moments where you question whether the distance was the right choice. You might feel tempted to reach out, to explain yourself, or to bridge the gap prematurely. These moments are a test of your resolve. Can you trust yourself enough to stay the course, even when it feels difficult? Stoicism teaches us the value of patience and perspective. As Epictetus once said, first say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do. This period of stepping back is your chance to define who you want to be, not in relation to them, but in relation to yourself. What kind of life do you want to build? What values do you want to embody? These are the questions that will guide your growth. One of the most surprising aspects of this journey is the sense of empowerment that comes from reclaiming your agency. By stepping back, you're making a statement not to them, but to yourself. You're saying, I am enough as I am. I don't need to cling to this relationship to feel whole or worthy. This realization is transformative, and it ripples into every area of your life. As you grow, you'll also find that your relationships begin to change, not just the one you've stepped back from, but all of them. When you prioritize your own well-being, you attract connections that are healthier, more balanced, and more aligned with your values. This is the essence of Stoic relationships, cultivating connections that uplift and inspire rather than drain and diminish. But growth is not without its challenges. There will be moments of loneliness, moments where you miss their presence, even if the relationship wasn't serving you. These feelings are valid, and it's important to honor them without letting them dictate your actions. Remember, pulling away is not about severing ties. It's about creating space for clarity and growth, both for yourself and for them. As you navigate this phase, take time to celebrate your progress. Every step you take toward self-awareness and self-respect is a step toward a more fulfilling life. You're not just growing as an individual, you're laying the foundation for healthier, more authentic relationships in the future. This is what really happens when you pull away from them. You discover who you are outside of the relationship. You reconnect with your values, your passions, and your sense of purpose. And in the process, you become stronger, more resilient, and more aligned with the life you want to create. In the next part of this journey, we'll explore how the distance you've created impacts them over time, and what their response reveals about the future of the relationship. Stay with me, because the insights we'll uncover are essential for anyone seeking deeper understanding and connection. 4. The turning point. How they respond after time passes. This is what really happens when you pull away from them. As time stretches on, their response shifts from the initial shock to something deeper. This stage is the turning point. It's when the true nature of the relationship and the person on the other side becomes clear. Their response, or lack thereof, is a mirror reflecting their capacity for growth, accountability, and genuine connection. But what does this really look like, and what can it teach you? Let's begin by asking an essential question. What do you think happens when someone is given space to process your absence? At first, as we discussed earlier, they may react with confusion or defensiveness. But as time passes, the dust settles. They begin to see the situation not just through the lens of their emotions, but with a broader perspective. How they respond in this phase reveals a great deal, not just about them, but about the relationship as a whole. For some, this turning point becomes a moment of awakening. They start to reflect on their behavior, their choices, and their role in the dynamic. They may reach out not with excuses or demands, but with genuine curiosity and care. They may ask questions like, what can I do to understand you better? Or how can I show up for this relationship in a healthier way? These are not surface-level apologies meant to smooth things over. They are signs of someone willing to grow and meet you in a space of mutual respect. But what about those who respond differently? What if their reaction is to retreat further, to withdraw into silence or resentment? This response, while painful, is equally revealing. It shows you their limitations, their unwillingness or inability to confront their own role in the relationship. This isn't about judgment, it's about clarity. As the philosopher Seneca wrote, "He suffers more than necessary, who suffers before it is necessary." Their refusal to reflect is not your burden to carry. One of the most powerful lessons of this turning point is the importance of observing actions over words. It's easy for someone to say they've changed or to promise they'll do better. But do their actions align with those words? Do they show consistency and effort, or do they fall back into old patterns as soon as things become uncomfortable? As time passes, their true intentions will become impossible to ignore. Here's another question for you. Are you ready to accept what their actions reveal, even if it's not what you hoped for? This stage requires courage. It's not always easy to face the reality of a relationship, especially if it falls short of your expectations. But clarity, even when it's difficult, is a gift. It frees you to make decisions based on truth, not illusion. Let's explore an example to bring this to life. Imagine you've pulled away from a friend who consistently overstepped your boundaries. At first, they might respond with frustration or confusion, but over time, they begin to realize how their actions impacted you. They reach out, not to justify their behavior, but to acknowledge it. They say something like, "I've been thinking about what happened, and I see now that I wasn't respecting your boundaries. I'm sorry for that, and I want to do better." This is a turning point. Their willingness to take accountability and express a desire to change shows growth. It's a sign that the relationship might be worth rebuilding, albeit with clearer boundaries and mutual effort. Now imagine a different scenario. You've pulled away, and instead of reaching out with understanding, they lash out. They accuse you of being selfish or dramatic. They make no effort to understand your perspective, instead focusing solely on their feelings of rejection. This too is a turning point. It reveals their inability or unwillingness to engage in a healthy, balanced way. As painful as it might be, this clarity is invaluable. It shows you where you stand and what you need to move forward. At this stage, it's also essential to reflect on your own growth. How do you feel as you observe their response? Do you feel a sense of peace, knowing you've honored your boundaries? Or do you feel tempted to revert to old patterns, to reach out and bridge the gap yourself? These feelings are natural, but they are also opportunities to practice the principles of Stoicism. Remember, you cannot control their actions, you can only control your response. In Stoic relationships, the turning point is not about winning or losing. It's about gaining wisdom. It's about seeing the relationship for what it truly is, not what you hoped it could be. And it's about using that wisdom to make choices that align with your values and your vision for a healthy, fulfilling connection. This stage also brings up another important consideration: forgiveness. Whether their response is one of growth or resistance, forgiveness can be a powerful tool for your own healing. Forgiveness doesn't mean excusing harmful behavior or inviting someone back into your life unconditionally. It means releasing resentment and freeing yourself from the burden of anger. As Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The best revenge is not to be like your enemy." Forgiveness is not for them, it's for you. As we wrap up this part of the journey, let's take a moment to connect. If this insight resonates with you, if it's helping you navigate a turning point in your own relationships, I invite you to like this video and comment number 1 below to let me know. Your engagement not only supports this channel, but also helps build a community of people committed to growth, authenticity, and understanding. And if you haven't already, make sure to subscribe to this channel so you don't miss the next part of this journey. We're diving even deeper into what happens when you pull away, including how to rebalance the dynamic if you decide to re-engage or let go for good. Stay with me, because the next truth we'll explore is about rebuilding. What happens when you decide to return or choose not to? The answers will surprise you and challenge everything you thought you knew about relationships. 5. Rebalancing the dynamic. What happens when you return or don't? This is what really happens when you pull away from them. The decision to return or not becomes a defining moment in the relationship. The space you created has shifted the dynamic, whether subtly or profoundly, and now the question arises, how do you move forward? This phase is not just about the relationship itself, but about who you've become through the process of stepping back. Your choice, whether to re-engage or to let go, will set the tone for what comes next. Let's start by considering the first scenario. What happens when you choose to return? After a period of distance, returning to a relationship isn't as simple as picking up where you left off. The space has changed both of you, and it's essential to approach this re-engagement with intention and clarity. What have you learned about yourself during this time? What boundaries need to be reinforced? And what expectations need to be communicated? In many cases, the act of returning requires a renegotiation of the relationship's terms. This doesn't have to be a formal conversation, but it does need to be clear in your actions and energy. For example, if you pulled away because your boundaries weren't being respected, re-engaging without addressing this would only invite the same pattern to continue. But if you return with a newfound sense of self-respect and the confidence to uphold your limits, you send a powerful message. I value this connection, but I also value myself. The key to rebalancing the dynamic is consistency. It's not enough to articulate your needs or boundaries once, you must embody them. This is where the principles of Stoicism become particularly valuable. Marcus Aurelius reminds us to act in accordance with our values, regardless of external circumstances. As you step back into the relationship, ask yourself, am I honoring my values in this interaction? Am I staying true to the lessons I've learned? But what happens if the other person resists this rebalancing? Perhaps they fall back into old habits, testing your boundaries or dismissing your needs. This can be frustrating, but it's also an opportunity to stand firm. Remember, rebalancing is not about controlling their behavior. It's about maintaining your own integrity. If they cannot meet you in this new dynamic, it might be a sign that the relationship cannot grow in the direction you need. On the other hand, what if you decide not to return? This choice, while difficult, can be the ultimate act of self-respect. Sometimes, the space you've created reveals that the relationship was not as healthy or fulfilling as you once believed. Maybe the patterns of imbalance were too deeply ingrained, or perhaps you've realized that your growth has taken you in a different direction. Letting go is never easy, but it can be profoundly liberating. When you choose not to return, the process of closure becomes crucial. Closure is not about having a final conversation or receiving an apology. It's about finding peace within yourself. It's about acknowledging the role the relationship played in your life, expressing gratitude for the lessons it taught you, and releasing any lingering resentment or regret. As Epictetus said, freedom is the only worthy goal in life. It is won by disregarding things that lie beyond our control. Letting go is an act of claiming that freedom. But even if you choose to move on, the relationship leaves an imprint. The lessons you've learned and the growth you've experienced will shape how you approach future connections. In Stoic relationships, every interaction becomes an opportunity to practice self-awareness, resilience, and compassion. The distance you created in this relationship has prepared you to build healthier, more balanced connections moving forward. One of the most challenging aspects of this phase is dealing with uncertainty. Whether you choose to return or not, there will be moments of doubt. Did I make the right choice? What if things could have been different? These thoughts are natural, but they don't have to define your experience. Instead of fixating on what might have been, focus on what you can control: your actions, your mindset, and your commitment to growth. Let's consider another layer to this process: forgiveness. Whether you've decided to return or let go, forgiveness is essential for rebalancing the dynamic. Forgiveness doesn't mean condoning harmful behavior or pretending everything is okay. It means releasing the grip of anger and resentment so that you can move forward with clarity and peace. Forgiveness is a gift you give yourself, not the other person. If you've chosen to re-engage, forgiveness allows you to approach the relationship with a clean slate, free from the weight of past grievances. If you've chosen to let go, forgiveness helps you release the emotional ties that might otherwise keep you tethered to the past. In both cases, it's an act of self-liberation. Another important aspect of this phase is learning to trust yourself. The process of pulling away, Reflecting and making a decision has strengthened your self-awareness and intuition. Trusting yourself means believing in your ability to make the right choices for your well-being, even when those choices are difficult. It means recognizing that your worth is not tied to the outcome of a relationship, but to the values and principles you uphold. In this phase, there's also a shift in how you view relationships as a whole. You begin to understand that relationships are not about completing each other, but about complementing each other. They are partnerships where both individuals can thrive, grow, and support one another. This perspective aligns with the essence of Stoic relationships, which prioritize mutual respect, authenticity, and emotional independence. As you navigate the decision to return or let go, keep asking yourself, what do I need to feel aligned with my values and purpose? How can I honor my growth while remaining compassionate toward the other person? These questions will guide you toward a decision that reflects your highest self. This is what really happens when you pull away from them. The space you create forces a reevaluation of the relationship's foundation. Whether you choose to return or not, the process is transformative. It challenges you to grow, to reflect, and to act with intention. And in the end, it brings you closer to the life and relationships you truly deserve. In the next part, we'll delve into the ultimate lessons this process teaches about connection, boundaries, and personal growth. Stay with me as we uncover the deeper wisdom that comes from pulling away and rediscovering yourself in the process. 6. The lesson learned. What pulling away teaches about relationships. This is what really happens when you pull away from them. The entire process becomes a powerful teacher, shaping your understanding of relationships, boundaries, and your own inner strength. The journey you've undertaken, stepping back, reflecting, and possibly re-engaging, has taught you lessons that will influence not just this connection, but all of your future relationships. So what are these lessons? What truths emerge when the dust settles and the distance reveals what was once hidden? Let's uncover them together. The first and perhaps most profound lesson is this: you are enough as you are. In relationships, we often overextend ourselves, trying to prove our worth or maintain harmony at the expense of our own well-being. But pulling away is a declaration of self-worth. It's an act of saying, I don't need to lose myself to keep this connection alive. Through this process, you've likely discovered that your value isn't tied to how much you give to someone else. It's inherent within you. Let me ask you, how often have you prioritized someone else's needs over your own? How has that shaped your view of yourself? These questions might be uncomfortable, but they're essential for growth. By pulling away, you've shown yourself that your needs and boundaries matter. This realization is a cornerstone of personal development and the foundation of healthy, fulfilling relationships. Another powerful lesson is the importance of boundaries. Boundaries are not about keeping people out, they're about defining how you want to be treated and how you choose to engage with others. Before pulling away, you might have allowed certain behaviors to slide, thinking it was easier to avoid conflict or keep the peace. But through this process, you've learned that peace achieved by compromising your values is not peace at all. Boundaries, when clearly communicated and consistently upheld, are an act of love, not just for yourself, but for the other person as well. They provide clarity and structure, ensuring that both parties can thrive without overstepping each other's limits. As Epictetus reminds us, no man is free who is not master of himself. Boundaries are a way of mastering yourself, of living in alignment with your principles. Through this journey, you've also gained a deeper understanding of the people around you. Pulling away has acted as a filter, revealing who is willing to grow and meet you halfway, and who is content to stay in old patterns. This clarity, while sometimes painful, is a gift. It frees you from the illusion of what you hoped the relationship could be and allows you to see it for what it truly is. Here's a question to consider. What have you learned about the people in your life through this process? Are they willing to evolve alongside you, or do they resist growth? These insights will guide your decisions moving forward, helping you build connections that align with your values. Another essential lesson is the power of self-reflection. When you step back from a relationship, you're not just creating space for the other person, you're creating space for yourself. This period of reflection has likely brought up questions about your own patterns, triggers, and desires. Why did I tolerate certain behaviors? What am I truly looking for in a connection? These questions are the foundation of self-awareness, a skill that will serve you in every area of your life. In Stoic relationships, self-awareness is key. It allows you to approach interactions with intention rather than reactivity, ensuring that your actions are aligned with your values. By pulling away, you've cultivated this awareness, gaining a clearer understanding of who you are and what you need. Perhaps one of the most surprising lessons is the resilience you've discovered within yourself. Pulling away is not easy. It requires courage, patience, and a willingness to face uncertainty. But through this process, you've proven to yourself that you are capable of navigating difficult emotions and making choices that honor your well-being. This resilience is a testament to your growth and a reminder of your strength. Let me ask, do you feel stronger now than you did before? How has this journey changed the way you see yourself? These reflections are worth celebrating because they mark a turning point in your personal development. Another significant insight is the realization that relationships are not about control, they're about collaboration. When you pull away, you release the need to fix, change, or manage the other person. Instead, you focus on what you can control, your own actions, mindset, and boundaries. This shift is liberating, allowing you to approach relationships from a place of mutual respect and understanding rather than fear or obligation. In this process, you've likely also learned the value of forgiveness. Forgiveness is not about excusing harmful behavior or pretending everything is fine. It's about releasing the emotional weight of resentment and freeing yourself to move forward. Whether you've chosen to return to the relationship or let it go, forgiveness allows you to close the chapter with grace and peace. Let's take a moment to reflect on the broader impact of these lessons. Pulling away is not just about one relationship, it's about transforming how you approach connection as a whole. The clarity, resilience, and self-awareness you've gained will ripple into every interaction, helping you build relationships that are rooted in authenticity and mutual respect. Before we conclude, I want to connect with you directly. If this journey has resonated with you, if these lessons have sparked new insights or reflections, I encourage you to like this video and comment number 1 below. Your engagement helps us grow this community of thoughtful, intentional individuals who are committed to personal and relational growth. And if you haven't already, make sure to subscribe to this channel so you can join us for more insights on relationships, growth, and the principles of Stoicism. Together, we can continue this journey of self-discovery and connection. As we wrap up, let me leave you with this thought. Pulling away is not the end, it's the beginning. It's the start of a deeper understanding of yourself and your relationships. It's a chance to grow, to heal, and to build connections that truly align with your values. So wherever you are in this process, trust that you're exactly where you need to be. This is what really happens when you pull away from them. The act of stepping back becomes a powerful catalyst for transformation, not just for the relationship, but for your own personal growth. In the silence and space you create, truths emerge, truths about the other person, the connection you share, and most importantly, yourself. These lessons carry the weight of realignment, clarity, and empowerment, marking a pivotal moment in how you navigate relationships and life as a whole. At the heart of this journey lies the realization that pulling away is not an act of weakness or retreat, it's an act of strength. It's a declaration of self-respect, a way of honoring your needs and values. For too long, many of us stay in patterns that diminish us, hoping things will change, hoping others will understand. But by creating distance, you take control of your story. You say, I choose to focus on what truly serves my growth and well-being. What have you learned through this process? Perhaps you've discovered the importance of boundaries, how they're not just barriers but bridges to mutual respect. Perhaps you've come to understand the power of emotional independence, the ability to find fulfillment within yourself rather than relying on others to provide it. Or maybe you've seen how letting go can be an act of grace, freeing you from unhealthy dynamics and making space for new possibilities. Pulling away also forces you to confront a difficult truth. Not every relationship can or should be saved. Some connections, no matter how deeply you care, are misaligned with your values or your vision for a balanced, fulfilling life. It takes courage to recognize this, and even more courage to act on it. But in doing so, you reclaim your energy, your focus, and your future. What about the relationships that do survive? Those are the ones where both individuals are willing to grow, reflect, and meet each other with mutual respect. These relationships emerge stronger, built on a foundation of authenticity and shared effort. They remind us that love and connection are not about perfection, but about the willingness to work together in alignment with shared values. Throughout this journey, the wisdom of Stoicism offers a guiding light. It teaches us to focus on what we can control, our actions, our thoughts, our responses, and let go of what we cannot. It encourages us to approach relationships with humility and perspective, understanding that every connection, whether fleeting or enduring, offers valuable lessons. Now let's reflect on one final question. How will you take these lessons forward? The choice is yours. Will you use this newfound clarity to build stronger boundaries, deeper connections, and a life that reflects your truest self? Or will you slip back into old patterns, forgetting the strength you've discovered? Whatever your choice, remember this. Pulling away is not just a relationship strategy, it's a life practice. It's about creating the space to realign with your values, to prioritize your growth, and to invite the right people and experiences into your world. Thank you for taking this journey with me. If this exploration has resonated with you, I invite you to reflect on what you've learned and apply it to your life in meaningful ways. Share this video with someone who might need these insights, because the power of personal growth is something we all deserve to experience. And if you're ready for more, don't forget to subscribe to this channel for more deep dives into relationships, personal growth, and the wisdom of Stoicism. Together, we're building a community of people committed to living with clarity, purpose, and authenticity. Until next time, take care of yourself and your journey. Here's to the strength it takes to step back, the wisdom to learn from it, and the courage to move forward. You've got this.